So what can be done to prevent war? What strategies will work? Gandhi said that we must be the change we wish to see in the world. If we are going to effectively advocate for a world beyond war, it is important that our personal actions be congruent with the foundational ideas. War is obsolete. We are one on this planet, and the means are the ends in the making. How can we live these ideas in our daily lives? The personal implications of the foundational ideas are how we walk our talk and are the means to a more peaceful world. These are: I will resolve conflict. I will not use violence, not even psychological violence. I will maintain an attitude of goodwill. I will not preoccupy myself with an enemy. I will work together with others to build a world beyond war. When I say, I will maintain an attitude of goodwill, and I will not preoccupy myself with an enemy, I am saying that I will not fall into us and them thinking, resort to name-calling, or become lost in my fight-or-flight reflexes. Instead, by living these personal implications, I will develop my capacity for calm, clear, and compassionate consideration of what to do next, so I can resolve conflicts creatively.
The foundational ideas and personal implications provide a roadmap to help us choose which options, which strategies will best help move the world beyond war. Americans are principled, practical, and caring people. Our nation's policies and actions should reflect the principles and compassion of our citizens. Citizens need more information about what people and nations can do instead of war. Let's explore 4 strategies that will help prevent and end war. Practice diplomacy and nonviolent conflict resolution processes. Contribute appropriate foreign aid to developing countries. Respect and adhere to international law. Cooperate and collaborate with other nations. Examples of effective international diplomacy, dialogue, negotiation, and other nonviolent conflict resolution processes already exist. Here are some examples. As apartheid ended in South Africa, there were widespread predictions that there would be a bloodbath. It didn't happen. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission, led by Nelson Mandela and Bishop Desmond Tutu, brought perpetrators and victims together in a way that allowed forgiveness, justice, and healing to happen. In Poland, Lech Walesa, an electrician, climbed over the shipyard wall in 1980 to join some striking workers, who elected him to lead negotiations. His nonviolent solidarity movement led the Poles out of communism and was the spark that led to the Velvet Revolutions in Central Europe, ending Soviet rule and hence the Cold War. He won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1983. Walesa understood nonviolent negotiation and leadership. A second strategy to prevent war is to provide appropriate humanitarian foreign aid to developing countries. Here are some examples. Peace Corps volunteers help villagers around the world grow crops, start a cottage industry, or improve community health and infrastructure. Each Peace Corps volunteer is a goodwill ambassador. With their help, our security is increased. Helping large groups of impoverished people doesn't have to be very expensive, as Greg Mortensen's Central Asia Institute proves. After a failed climb in the Himalayas on K2, Greg was frostbitten and very weak. He stumbled into a village, and the people nursed him back to health over several months until he could walk out in the spring. He vowed to repay them. In cooperation with local villagers, Greg has built over 54 schools in the last 12 years, which have educated 15,000 children in remote areas of Pakistan along the Afghani-Pakistani border. In communities with those schools, 95% of parents choose to send their children there instead of the local anti-West fundamentalist schools built by the Taliban. Greg finds competent teachers that he pays $20 a month, the going rate there. Compare this to the expense of trying to police an area where people feel enmity toward the U.S. and where the Al-Qaeda network is protected by villagers. Greg is addressing terrorism with goodwill and books, not bombs. Service clubs like Kiwanis have shown us how to administer humanitarian foreign aid. Kiwanis is in service to all children of the world, and one of its guiding principles is to encourage the daily living of the Golden Rule in all human relationships. One of Rotary International's tenets is to foster international goodwill and peace. Rotary's Peace Trees Vietnam project is helping rid the country of landmines one field at a time so that productive farmland can be reclaimed. There are many, many other examples where for very little investment we get enormous returns in goodwill and friendships. Imagine if only 25% of the U.S. military budget were redirected to humanitarian foreign aid. This amount could provide shelter and clean water, eliminate starvation and malnutrition, assist with health care and AIDS control, assist refugees, eliminate illiteracy, build democracy, and stabilize world population. This kind of help would build friendships worldwide. Terrorists couldn't hide among villages who considered U.S. citizens their supporters and friends. A third strategy to resolve conflict and prevent war is to support and adhere to international law.
When Timothy McVeigh bombed the federal courthouse in Oklahoma City, we didn't go to his hometown and bomb it. Nobody thought we should. We didn't because we have laws in place so that when caught, he would be tried in court and justice would be done. The events of September 11th could be viewed as criminal acts. International cooperation might have brought Osama bin Laden and al-Qaeda leaders to the International Criminal Court to be tried and sentenced. The International Criminal Court in The Hague, Netherlands, tries individuals for crimes against humanity, but the United States is not among the 139 nations that have joined. If we want a world beyond war, in which terrorists are brought to justice, we have to be willing to participate in an impartial international legal system. The International Court of Justice is a branch of the United Nations that prosecutes countries for crimes against humanity. The U.S. has resigned from the court. Many feel that the most important international issue today is the uniform application of international law. When all nations in the world are required to abide by a set of rules that apply fairly and equally, we all will be more secure. A fourth way that our country can help prevent war and resolve conflicts worldwide is through collaboration and cooperation with other nations. We Americans have a long history of working with other peoples and nations around the world as a collaborative partner to help solve global problems, such as the eradication of smallpox and polio, protecting human rights, feeding the hungry, and protecting many endangered species. Other nations have rallied to work with us, and the results have benefited us all. The United Nations was founded in 1945, just after World War II ended. The core values the United Nations stands for are the rule of law, the protection of civilians, mutual respect between people of different faiths and cultures, and the peaceful resolution of conflicts. Despite recent problems at the UN, the response must be for all countries to work together to solve these problems so that the promise of the UN mission can be fulfilled. These excerpts from the UN Charter show that its mission is just as important today as in 1945. In the 1990s alone, UN peacekeepers helped to prevent, diffuse, or resolve over 35 conflicts around the world, including East Timor, Haiti, Cambodia, Somalia, Sierra Leone, and Kosovo. We live in an increasingly interconnected world. We cannot solve global problems alone. If we want other countries to help us, we have to be willing to participate in international treaties and agreements that benefit all of us. But here are some examples of treaties that the U.S. has not signed on to date. The Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty and the Treaty to Ban Landmines. In 2001, the U.S. withdrew from the Anti-Ballistic Missile Treaty, which had been the cornerstone of arms control for 30 years. And the U.S. has not signed on to treaties to ban biological and chemical weapons, to prevent the international sale of small arms, to protect the rights of women and children, to help control global warming, or to participate in the International Criminal Court. By participating in these treaties that almost every other nation has agreed to, the U.S. could help lead the way in making the world healthier and safer.